Senator Dominic Montgomery represents Brooklyn, New York. She has been, yes, the 25th Senatorial District. She is the Dean of the Senate. She has been a leader in the Senate through the years when it was a Republican majority. She was one of our very few members who was able to still push forward legislation and make sure that the work to protect families and children in particular was actually put forth and passed and implemented and enacted. And so that we could see, and not too long ago I shared that I was a volunteer lawyer for a incarcerated women's project. And I was not really paying attention to how laws became laws and who was doing it, but we were hitting roadblocks in our work, and I happened to pick up a piece of mail in my house that came in, and the law that I needed and that we needed so that we can keep families together longer while women were incarcerated was it was just enacted, and it was profiled in a piece of literature that came from my senator. And she is still my senator, Senator Dominic Montgomery. So for years, she has been on the forefront of protecting families, children, adoptees, foster children, early childhood education, early learning programs, maternal health programs, everything that we know is the bedrock, right? I was gonna say health centers in our high schools. She's been at the forefront of all of that work. So as a leader, as a champion for women and families, as a champion for economic rights, as a champion for reproductive rights, as a champion for opportunity in higher education, she has been at the forefront of all of it, and she's been able to guide a whole lot of junior representatives along their way as well. So not only is she doing the work, she's helping to make sure that there is legacy in the work, that there's people that are going to carry on and make sure that they continue to do and put forth the ideas and put forth things that reflect our ideals. So without further ado, I'd like to bring forth our senator, Senator Dominic Montgomery. I'm sorry, I was wrong. We have one other word.
I guess being speaker, you get a second bite at the apple. As Tremaine was mentioning the work of Velma Montgomery, and in her 30 plus years in the legislature, I think all but 3 of those years, she actually was in the minority. And a lot of times when you sit in the minority, all you do is get to sometimes complain. But as Tremaine pointed out, Velmanette was able to get lots of laws passed, and there was no bigger advocate in the legislature. And I'd say, and I would argue in either house, when it came to families and children and women other than Velmanette Montgomery. And I think it's always good for us to, as they say, give people their flowers while they're still at work, while they're still here, and while she still has a little more work to be done before the end of this session. But when I was a young guy who wasn't even elected yet, and I was always looking at the faces of the legislature because I knew one day I wanted to run for office, one of the people who, I didn't really know her, I would run into her when I would come up here, during Caucus Weekend before I was elected as a legislature, but she was always someone who carried herself with that motherly touch, with that motherly instinct for not only just her, the district that she represented in Brooklyn, but particularly for Black and brown children. There was no bigger advocate for her. So I just wanted to give my personal thanks to Senator Dominic Montgomery.
So I guess I get to put my 2 cents in as well. But I want to really start by saying how gorgeous you look out here.
Yeah.
I have to apologize to my sisters that we just turned, Albany blue and white. And please do stop by our Centennial booth, which is it's in the Convention Center. But of course, we are honoring today a stalwart in our community. And everything has already been said. It's just not everyone has said it. So I'm not going to repeat all of the wonderful words that we've heard about our state senator. My state senator, I'm the only one who actually up here gets it. Well, not the only one. One of the only ones who gets to vote for her. And it has always been a pleasure and an honor to do so. And the one thing that, she has taught me about being a legislator is that although I was running for office with a 1.5-year-old, that this is doable, that I could see myself in her because she did it before us. And there's so many other women who come into these chambers, and men, Mr. Speaker, and have their children just sort of be here and be at home. And if it was not for her taking the stripes, when children were not as comfortable in politics, when women were not as commonplace, we would not be here. So we honor you today, Madam Senator. We look forward to your legacy of work and what I've seen so far from people who tend to, I would say, retire. I don't know if you could ever really do that, but you start working harder.
That's true.
So I guess you get ready for your next journey, and wherever that takes you, I will look forward to continuing following your legacy of leadership, of motherhood, of sisterhood, of just excellence. We love you. And power. Please stand for Senator Dominic Montgomery. So we present this to you as a token of our appreciation for your work. And we also recognize that we will honor you tomorrow night again at our scholarship gala. Okay. And we look forward to delivering to you our Shirley Chisholm Award.
Oh, wow.
But please do take this at this moment on behalf of the women of the Caucus's Women's Committee. And they wanted to make sure to be able to honor you today. So, of course, our co-chairs are here, and you can greet your guests.
Thank you. Okay.
So without further ado, I'd like to have Senator Montgomery say a few words.
Thank you. Thank you. I want to tell you a little bit about how we started so many years ago. But also I want to recognize the women. My district is the 25th Senate District in Brooklyn, the great borough of Kings. And so there are a number of women who are part of my district. These are my partners, and they sit here in this chamber every day that we're in session. Diana Richardson from the 43rd Assembly District. So someone is sitting in her seat. Joanne Simon from the 52nd District. Someone is sitting in her seat. Latrice is here, but someone is sitting in Latrice Walker's. No one's sitting in her. She doesn't allow that. But that's the 55th Assembly District. And, okay. And Tremaine Wright. Someone is sitting in Tremaine's seat. It won't be Tremaine's seat much longer. And we'll talk about that later. So Tremaine Wright, who is chair of the Black, Puerto Rican, Hispanic, and Asian caucus, of which there's 60 members. So she's very big. And I will call our congresswomen, Nydia Velasquez and Yvette Clarke. So those are the women of the 25th Senate District. And there are two men, which I shall name also, just so that I don't get sued for discrimination. Walter Mosley, who is my own assemblyman, who is Assembly of the 57th, and Felix Ortiz of the 51st. So some of you may be sitting in the seat of one of those men. I just want to say that this began so many years ago when I thought about the fact that there were many, many women across our state who were not recognized and they were not connected. And I thought, why don't we use this weekend as an opportunity to have some of those women who were serving in local seats, in local chambers across the state, come to Albany and sit in these seats. And we did that for a number of years. It was so exciting because the assembly was turned over to the women of the state, elected women in particular, but everybody, for the weekend, that 1 hour or so. It fell off the radar because of after 9/11 and security purposes, we lost access to the chamber. So this new group of women have come and opened the doors again. So I want to thank Assemblywoman Davila, who came to us and said, let's do something. And this was the beginning of this new era of women in the chamber. And I want to recognize Assemblywoman De La Rosa. She is so young, you would think that she's right. And Kimberly Jean-Pierre. Where's Kimberly? Kimberly. So these are the new chairs. I want to thank them. And I want to say to you, way back then, when we had women coming from all over the state, one of those women who came tells me now that she was inspired when she saw me presiding in this meeting. She was so inspired that she decided to run for the state senate. That woman now is the majority leader of the New York State Senate, Andrea StewartCousins. She was. So I wanted to share that with you because I want you to know that women, you matter. And you bring with you the power of producing the next generation of leaders. We should never underestimate the power of just your showing up, your being, your speaking up, because those who come after us will look at that and hopefully take that with them and continue the legacy that we all are part of, the building, and I name it the Harrieting, because we're the current day Harriet Tubmans. Thank you, ladies, and God bless you. Thank you.